Глубоко уважаемый Рустам Нургалиевич, глубоко уважаемый Василий Алексеевич, дамы и господа, огромная честь для меня приветствовать вас сегодня на презентации очередного шестого издания доклада Российской ассоциации содействия ООН «Регионы России. Цели устойчивого развития». По уже сложившейся доброй и значимой для нас традиции, презентация доклада началась еще в первой половине дня в ходе встречи нашей делегации президента Татарстана Рустамом Нургалиевичем с генеральным секретарем ООН Антонио Гутерришем. И господин президент Татарстана лично представил генеральному секретарю ООН передовые достижения своего региона на пути реализации повестки 2030 и пригласил посетить лично Генсека Республику.
He also invited the Secretary General to visit the Republic of Tatarstan. It's worth noting that the program Regions of Russia and Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations Association of Russia opens up new horizons for the cooperation of the regions of Russia with its specialized agencies. The current edition of the report was also presented in Europe in the UN agency in Geneva in November 2019. At that point, the Republic of Tatarstan held a number of successful meetings, including the Director General of the UNOV, Tatiana Valovaya, also the Executive Secretary of the European Economic Commission, and heads of UNCTAD and UNEP. The goals that were outlined will be implemented. On behalf of the Russian Association for the United Nations, I would like to thank the President of the Republic of Tatarstan and also the head of the Agency for Investment Development, Mr. Minulina, for their active participation in the implementation of the program, and wish the Republic of Tatarstan stable progress toward the implementation of sustainable development goals, which were reflected in the strategy for social and economic development of the Republic. The program Region of Russia and Sustainable Development Goals is being implemented with the support of the Ministry for Foreign Affairs of Russia. Dear Vasily Alexeyevich, the Russian Association for the United Nations expresses recognition for the unfailing assistance on the part of the permanent mission of the Russian Federation at the United Nations in New York. Thank you very much, Alexei Nikolaevich, esteemed President of Tatarstan. Esteemed colleagues, thank you so much for responding to our invitation. I don't think you will ever regret coming here to this meeting. The implementation of Sustainable Development Goals in the Russian Federation is becoming a good tradition after Moscow and Sverdlovsk Oblast that organized meetings in 2019-2018. I'm happy to introduce the Republic of Tatarstan, but actually the Republic of Tatarstan will introduce itself. It's one of the most dynamic Russian regions with the multinational population, very rich history. Tatarstan is very active on the international arena. It hosts all kinds of global events. I'm sure a lot of you watched the World Cup of 2018. Several games were played in Kazan, the capital of Tatarstan. Tatarstan is famous for many other international events that it hosted in the past few years. I will not actually take it out of the mouth of the presenters who will be following me in my presentation. You will get to hear about it very shortly. Lately, Tatarstan has been one of the top 5 regions of Russia, and it's been demonstrating sustainable progress and growth. I used to be very fond of visiting Kazan. I used to go there very often, and I will testify that Kazan is a wonderful city, and the way it's been developing, the way the Republic has been progressing, you can see it with the naked eye. the key to the success in the implementation of SDGs is at the local level. In the context of the decisions adopted at the UN, all kinds of specifics of a particular region is being taken into account. And their goal is to maximize good living and the comfortable living conditions for the population of Tatarstan. Secretary General Guterres today mentioned that the example of Tatarstan in terms of implementation of sustainable development could be a wonderful example for a lot of countries for which the implementation of SDGs at the country level, and Russia is a huge country. Sometimes there are countries with non-homogeneous regions, but Tatarstan can be an example for many countries that could be comparable in terms of scale, in terms of territory and population in the implementation of SDGs at their level. Another advantage of Tatarstan is that, as was pointed out, it's a multinational region where over 170 ethnicities reside, and they live peacefully side by side, as well as two main religions, Islam and Orthodox religion. It's a role model in terms of coexistence of peoples of different ethnicities and different faiths. The Secretary General suggested that Tatarstan share its experience of interconfessional interaction and coexistence with other countries that are member states of the United Nations, and we will definitely continue exploring this subject with the High Representative of the Secretary General for the Alliance of Civilization. I'm sure Tatarstan could share its experience and the Alliance of the World Religions is something that is a very hot topic. So an important role is played here by the civil society. The United Nations Association of Russia and their program Regions of the Russian Federation and Sustainable Development Goal is a very good example of the educational role of such public organizations and civic organizations. I'm sure you'll get to hear very useful information about the achievements of Tatarstan in the implementation of the SDGs. And now the floor is yours, Mr. President. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for the opportunity to address today's audience and represent and introduce the Republic of Tatarstan, which is one of the leading industrially developed and innovational regions of the Russian Federation. The United Nations organization is a global association of states that knows no equals in terms of its legitimate character, representation, and universal character. Sustainable Development Goals, adopted at the General Assembly of the United Nations on September 25, 2015, by Resolution 70/1, covers a wide range of global programs that face both the developed and the developing countries. The tasks, the objectives formulated by the UN in the 17 Sustainable Development Goals were reflected in the Strategy of Socio-Economical Development of the Republic of Tatarstan up to the year 2030. It's been approved by our parliament. This strategy is based by the development of human capital, increasing the welfare and the quality of life of the population in accordance with the global trends. The changes in the world are very dynamic, but the problems and the challenges are always there. Today, you will get to hear about the region, Republic of Tatarstan, a region which is located in the industrial center of the Russian Federation, at the crossroads of important roadways connecting the east and the west, the north and the south of the country. According to the report 2018, the regions of Russia and the Sustainable Development Goals, our republic scored amongst the top 5 in the national rating in terms of creating favorable conditions for the development of the region. Tatarstan is located in the center of the European part of Russia, to the east of Moscow at a distance of about 800 kilometers. Its area is 68,000 square kilometers. The population stands at about 4 million people. The population is multi-confessional. Most people are Sunni Muslims, and there's also the Russian Orthodox religion. In terms of other macroeconomic statistics, Tatarstan traditionally has been one of the leading regions of the Russian Federation. The foundation of our economy is the production of oil, oil refining, and the petrochemical industry. We also have very strong automobile building, aviation building, pharmaceuticals, production of electronic equipment, and so on. And of course, we try to implement innovation approaches and modern technologies into people's life, into the economy. Advanced legislation, modern infrastructure, and an active position of the state makes sure that the Republic creates favorable conditions for sustained growth in innovation operations. Tatarstan remains competitive by reinforcing and developing the best practices of global economy and the best practices. One of the top priorities of our development is the growth of incomes of the population. We're trying to make sure that we create new jobs. We provide ongoing education for our human resources, and also creating opportunities for the entire population to continue their education and to learn new skills, regardless of their health and age. Education is our top priority. People should have a chance to continue their education, to keep learning throughout their lives. Our schools are among the best according to the global rating. Also, we try to develop our territories in a comprehensive manner by creating favorable conditions for the people, by creating parks for the people, and comfortable living conditions. Tatarstan occupies 2.4% of the agricultural lands of Russia, but accounts for 4.6% of its agricultural products. This means that the agricultural complex is very effective. We have great experience in terms of organizing and hosting international events. In 2013, we hosted the Global University Games that raised our visibility. In 2015, the Republic hosted the championship in water sports. In 2017, Tatarstan hosted the Cup of the Federations for soccer. And of course, in 2018, Kazan hosted 6 games of the FIFA Cup. During the championship, our country received 300,000 tourists, out of which 190,000 came from foreign lands. Last year, at the end of August, for the first time, we held the championship of world skills. The capital of Tatarstan, Kazan, was honored to become the host of this event. World Skills Movement is one of the key endeavors in terms of making the jobs of workers more popular among young people. Tatarstan's well-being rests on enforcing and maintaining peace and peaceful coexistence between different confessions, different ethnicities, and assuring civil accord. All the social groups, all the religious groups in the countries, primarily the Muslim and the Orthodox religion, exist side by side with respect. Now, such historic venues as the ancient city of Bulgar and also the island of Sviyazh that were the sources of the Islam and the Russian Orthodox faith are kept in great order. We're completing the work for the restoration of the Our Lady of Kazan icon. So, a few other sites has been put on the UNESCO World Heritage List. With the support of Russian President Putin, we have implemented the project for creating the Bulgar Islamic Academy, which will become a center of spiritual enlightenment in the Russian Federation. Dear ladies and gentlemen, our achievements are based on hard work, on the spirit of innovation, our courage, and following rich traditions of our ancestors. The work of the United Nations and the Sustainable Development Goals strengthen international partnership. They form a strong basis for economic and social development for the well-being of the future generations. It is this noble goal, better life for the current and the future generations, is also the guiding light of our work for sustainable development in the Republic of Tatarstan, which is aimed at strengthening the multinational Russian Federation. Thank you very much for your attention. And that was said in Tatar language. Thank you very much, Ruslan Nurgalievich. Of course, Tatarstan is one of the most advanced regions of the Russian Federation. That's why you devoted your statement to that. Also, we have the honor to have the director of the Division for Sustainable Development Goals of the Economic and Social Affairs Department, Alexander Trepelkov. Alexander, it is a great honor for us to be present today because it is the agency of investment of Tatarstan. In 2018, received the prize of the United Nations for achievements in attracting investments in the industry, which will bring economic benefits for the Republic and will also reinforce the achievement of Sustainable Development Goals. It is not for nothing that I'm quoting this example, because you have a lot of experience and a lot of background here, especially the issue of financing SDGs. So, Mr. Trepelkov, you have the floor. Thank you very much, Alexei Nikolaevich.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs, it is my great honor and pleasure to participate in this important event entitled Regions of the Russian Federation and the Sustainable Development Goals. I wish to congratulate the Russian mission to the United Nations, the UN Association of Russia, and the Republic of Tatarstan for hosting this session featuring a keynote presentation on the achievements of the Republic of Tatarstan in sustainable development. As many of you know, the United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres, in his annual address to the UN General Assembly 2 weeks ago, launched the Decade of Action to deliver the SDGs by 2030. He emphasized the need to engage with partners from the local to the global to mobilize a movement for the SDGs, unlock financing, and generate the ambition, innovation, and solutions to deliver for everyone, everywhere. Localizing SDG implementation is a key feature of the Decade of Action. Local and regional authorities hold without any doubt the potential of bringing enormous contributions to making the SDGs a reality for all, ensuring that no one is left behind in their regions, cities, and towns. With concrete and practical interventions, cities, regions, and human settlements can become sustainable development hubs and laboratories for the world at large. The presentations by the regions of the Russian Federation, Moscow, Yekaterinburg, and now Tatarstan, join a remarkable tradition of voluntary local reviews of the 2030 Agenda implementation. In this regard, I would like to commend the city of Kazan for its commitment to reporting on SDG implementation by signing the so-called Voluntary Local Review Declaration. Cities and regions offer many opportunities. Smart cities are the center of innovation through effective urban public transport systems, rapid scale-up of renewable energy and energy efficiency, the inclusive provision of affordable health care and basic services, and the promotion of businesses and jobs aligned to the SDGs. The scope of these opportunities is immense. At current trends, cities will contain approximately 70% of the world's population and will produce 85% of global economic output by 2050. At the same time, cities are responsible for 70% of the global greenhouse gas emissions from burning fossil fuels and will need to become carbon neutral if the world is to achieve the targets of the Paris Agreement on climate change. Ladies and gentlemen, we at the United Nations Department of Economic and Social Affairs focus on ensuring the synergetic implementation of the Sustainable Development Agenda as a whole and more ambitious climate action. In this context, we have been developing a strong partnership with local and regional authorities, including, for instance, by hosting 2 high-level local and regional governments forums in 2018 and 2019 in partnership with UN Habitat, Local 2030, and the Global Task Force on Local and Regional Governments. We are currently planning a 3rd edition of this forum to be held in July 2020 at the margins of the high-level Political Forum on Sustainable Development, HLPF. I hope to see you all there. Your participation will serve to complement and enrich the first ever voluntary national review by the Russian Federation of SDG implementation to be presented at the 2020 HLPF. I also invite you to consider registering SDG acceleration actions in our global online platform. These acceleration actions are initiatives voluntarily undertaken by countries, local and regional authorities, UN system entities, and other actors to contribute to accelerate implementation of the 2030 Agenda. We truly hope that the combination of concrete actions and robust follow-up and review activities will propel the cities and region, and hence our whole world, closer to attaining the SDGs by 2030. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Спасибо, Александр Васильевич.
Thank you, Alexander. And now we are moving to the presentation of the report, and I'd like to give the floor to Ms. Dalia. The floor is yours. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dalia, and I'm the youngest member of the government of Tatarstan. And of course, this is one of the demonstrations of how we are trying to achieve the 5th SDG, gender equality. How we're working on other goals, I'll tell you in a couple of minutes. Just briefly. For those who haven't been to Tatarstan, I'd like to show the map of the Russian Federation and tell you briefly just where we're situated. Here's the map. The Republic of Tatarstan is situated in the central part of Russia. Our territory is 68,000 square kilometers. The capital of Tatarstan is my hometown, beautiful town with 1,000 years of history, Kazan. We are 800 kilometers away from Moscow, which is around 1 hour flight by plane. And we have 2 international airports on the territory of Tatarstan. There are direct flights to Dubai, Istanbul, Frankfurt, and in many other directions. So we have pretty good logistics. The population of our republic is almost 4 million people, and we have 173 nationalities living in our republic. Various confessions, various nations peacefully coexist on the territory of Tatarstan for over 1,000 years. That is why scientists from all over the world come to our republic to learn the secret of how we are managing to avoid the conflicts on the international and interreligious basis. The secret is simple. It's mutual respect and trust. That is the basis for sustainable development, including for achieving 10th SDG. The basic needs of a population are satisfied. Our educational healthcare system are free. The first and the 8th goal are achieved in the following way. We are trying to eliminate poverty. We are fighting against unemployment. The level of unemployment was 3.3% in 2009, and that is below the average level in Russia. Less than 8% of the population live on an income below subsistence level. And by 2024, we want to reduce this indicator by 2. The Tatarstan people are hardworking, they're not lazy, and they're glad to work. A strong agricultural sector in the Republic allows us to achieve the 2nd SDG. We produce food, goods, even for export. We're the top producer of milk in the country. Also, we produce in large quantities meat, grain, vegetables. There are lots of state programs supporting family farms in the Republic, and also there are state programs on supporting agricultural entrepreneurship. And they're very popular among people. I'd like to stop in greater detail on the issues of environment. Climate change is a very important issue for us, and we're trying to do everything possible for the future generations. It was Tatarstan in 2001 who was the first to implement the Charter of Earth. And the population of Tatarstan shares these values. And each year they take part in the corresponding events, for example, a day without an automobile or an hour of Earth, that are traditionally supported by our people. The government of our republic, in full, together with our president and with the people of our republic, twice a year plant trees within the event of forest planting. In Tatarstan, we have special protected natural areas and national parks and reserves. We have special public and private reserves that allow us to replant the trees. This is the 15th SDG. And as a result, in Tatar cities, we're implementing the green environment concept. Within the last 5 years, we've received finance for these goals in several $1 million. And overall, in Tatarstan, we have 50 programs improved and aimed at increasing the level of life. And such endeavors were positively received by our population. And the next 3-year program will be aimed at modernizing of 7,000 yards with multi-storied building. and it will be financed in the volume of $780 million. I'd like to emphasize that our people are taking an active part in this work. They're submitting their proposals and submitting questionnaires. Volga and Kama are the largest rivers in Tatarstan. The total length is over 3,000 kilometers, over 4,000 rivers, and over 11,000 lakes. Maintaining the proper quality of water resources is not an easy task, but we're glad to take on it. The sixth goal is implemented in full. The president of Tatarstan is trying to educate strong professionals that are often taken to the federal capital. So 2 years ago, the president of Tatarstan decided to name our Minister of Ecology as another minister within our own government. And what is interesting, the minister who used to be the Minister of Ecology now is the Minister of Economy. And I think it's really important because only the person who understands the priority of green GDP can work with the issues of economy. Tatarstan economy is growing, the economy grows, investment grows. Is justified only when the resources spent are spent in a balanced way, and the solutions applied serve to improve the environment conditions. You see the structure of our economy on this tree. Over 40% is industry. Thus, the environmental programs of our large companies are so important to us. I'll also to emphasize the technologies of careful usage, and our companies use those technologies. Is the 12th SDG. Our main industries are the petrochemistry, chemistry, engineering, agriculture, and energy cluster. We produce oil. We make planes, helicopters, KAMAZ. Also, KAMAZ trucks are produced with the engines of Euro standard, and the public transportation in Tatarstan runs on methane. And we're competitive around the world. Almost 50% of the goods produced in Tatarstan are sold outside of our republic, and we're actively working on the issues of alternative energy sources. And it's thanks to the economic success of our companies, the budget of the Republic is growing, which allows us to implement lots of social projects. For example, the program of construction of social housing. A cluster economy in Tatarstan allows us to have an educational facility for each industry. We have one of the largest universities in Russia, Kazan Federal University, with over 50,000 students, a medical university where there are lots of foreign students, for example, from Iran, India, a chemical, an oil and chemical university, agricultural academy that supports the development of agriculture and food industry, the Kazan Airplane University, the Academy of Sports and Tourism that is providing professionals for the hospitality industry and sports industry, the Architectural and Construction University, because we're doing so much construction and social housing. Those are very important universities for us. And the Information and Communication Technologies University. And from 2006 in Tatarstan, we've established a third age university to help those who are retired to adapt successfully to the modern conditions of life, to integrate into the communication space, and to learn modern technologies, and to use healthy way of life. 66,000 retired people have undergone education for free. And most of them learned about computer technologies and started actively using public and private services. And from 2019, for the third age people, the education is offered on the basis of this university on 18 new areas. And this is the learning foundation of Tatarstan, a solid foundation to support our economy and our society. Right now, we're smoothly transferring towards circular economy. So it's important for us that 7 high education facilities prepare specialists in the field of environment and ecology, and this is the 4th SDG. As you've seen, working professions are very important for our economy. From 2014, Tatarstan supports the International World Skill Movement. And in 2019, we've held a World Championship on working profession in order to increase the popularity of working profession, to train and to encourage people to undergo more training, especially among young people. The new world standards dictate the necessity of modern solutions, and we create dedicated resource centers on the basis of college schools that prepare the required number of specialists in the required fields. Of course, in order to prepare qualified staff, we should start from the childhood. And there's a special program that encourages employment for mothers of children under 3 years old. And within this program, we've built new 28 daycare centers. And from 2012, we've refurbished of over 1,000 daycare centers and schools. Right now, we are opening new polylingual schools. Tatar, Russian, and English languages will be evenly studied by the alumni of those schools. On the 28th of August 2020, under the auspices of UNESCO, Kazan will host an international forum, Polylingual Education in Intercultural Dialogue. And we invite you to take part in this event. And now we're switching to the 17th SDGs, establishing partners on global, regional, and local level between government, public, private partnerships, and society. Over 160 countries are trade partners of Russia. The President of the Russian Federation, Vladimir Putin, also set a goal to strengthen international cooperation at the regional level. Tatarstan is one of the examples of how the work should be done with other regions of our other countries. We have intergovernmental agreements in place with China, with several provinces, as well as with Germany. And there are many such agreements. And there are general consulates of various countries in Tatarstan, for example, Turkey, Hungary, Iran, Kazakhstan, and others. We have our own 24 representations around the globe, including a representation of Tatarstan in the United States, Japan, Arab Emirates, Switzerland, France, Germany, Finland, China, Czech Republic, and so on and so forth. The international partnership means not only export and import, it is also joint research. This is the exchange of best practices, and of course, investment work. In Tatarstan has the most favorable investment climate in the Russian Federation. As of now, we have the best investment infrastructure. This means over 100 industrial platforms with ready-to-use engineering infrastructure. Tatarstan is the only region in Russia with 7 platforms with federal tax benefits, 5 out of which are entire cities. 79 countries are investing in our republic already. Turkey is first on the volume of investments for the last 10 years. And out of European countries, Our main investors are Germany and France. And among top 5 are United States and China. Vladimir Putin, the president of our country, put the president of Tatarstan as the chair of the group that is called Russia and Islamic World. This is an advisory body that it works on developing relations of Russian regions with the countries of Organization of Islamic Cooperation. There's an economic wing within this group, which is called Kazan Summit. This year it will be held on 18th and 20th of June. So in 2 days of the work of this wing, there will be numerous conferences, workshops on Islamic banking, on the development of trade relations, on mass media, on tourism, culture, and there will be exhibit Russia Halal Expo. Also within our summit, we have a festival of Islamic fashion and other events.
There is a special website, and 5,000 participants made this a very useful get-together last year. In Russia, there is an association of innovative regions. The president of Tatarstan is the chairman of this association because Tatarstan is a pilot region of Russia where a lot of innovations are being conceived, implemented, and then tested and scaled throughout the Russian Federation. In Tatarstan, the program of e-government was developed, and then all kinds of services were offered to the population in electronic form. Security is a basic need of a human being. That is why in Tatarstan, for many years, we've been implementing a program of continuous video observation, video monitoring, in different facilities such as airports, railway stations, cultural facilities. All of them have video cameras, and the system of face recognition is also being used. According to the statistics, the Tatarstan has the lowest crime level throughout all the regions of Russia. That was for the year 2019, and this is SDG 11. SDG 9, a few years ago, we decided to implement a very ambitious and a very complex project, the construction of a whole city of information technologies. This is the youngest and the newest town of our republic. This town was designed by a famous Singapore architect, Louis Teicher. That's on the left, and on the right you can see what this city looks like, or the town looks like, after 5 years. Its population now is 3,500. It has technoparks, special economic zones with federal tax breaks and benefits, over 100 IT companies. There are research centers, and there are even driverless taxi cabs. For IT companies, we need to generate a very skillful human resources, and that is why there is a unique university in Napolis. Here, the studies are in English. Everything is taught in English. And now this university has students from 37 countries of the world, whereas students from 162 countries applied to be students at this university. So it's a very attractive school. And of course, all the departments, all the chairs are highly specified. They deal with cybersecurity, large data, robotics, artificial intellect, and so on and so forth. Tatarstan is very advanced and very modern, but on the other hand, we are a unique historic territory. We have 3 sites that have been put on the list of UNESCO as international heritage center facilities. Here's the Kremlin of Kazan, the White Mosque, and a very old town of Bolgar, where in 922 Islam was adopted as the state religion. On the right photo, you can see the largest printed Quran that weighs 800 kilos. It's the largest in the world. There are many museums in this area, and the third UNESCO protected site is the Cathedral of Assumption on the island of Siyarsk of 1556. It's a phenomenal cathedral. It's a must. It should be put on your list of places to visit. Well, I hope that everybody in this room loves exercise. I swim, I play badminton. Our president plays ice hockey and plays golf. Amongst the population of Tatarstan, regular exercise is a way of life. This is SDG 3. Officially, Kazan is the athletic capital of the Russian Federation. Here, in the words of introduction, all kinds of global events, athletic events were mentioned. I would only like to add one important detail as I see it. Today, thanks to holding those events, we have 11,000 sports facilities that were built particularly for holding those events, but after the construction and after the competitions, they become available to schools, major companies, municipalities. In other words, they are available for our population and accessible for the population. And the people are very active in enjoying these facilities. Now, a couple of future events that we're looking forward to. You can see they're listed here. We're still looking forward to holding those and hosting those events. We have to really be up to the international standards in terms of airports, public transportation, hotels, and restaurants. We need the human resources, thousands of hospitable and competent volunteers, and we have that all. Tatarstan has developed a strategy of socioeconomic development up to the year 2030. It's a serious document which we compiled with the help of international experts. The strategy was approved by the Parliament of Tatarstan. Very briefly, this is a strategy aimed at improving the living standards of our population. Three aspects need to be pointed out. Number one, public health, the system of public health, medical service, prevention of diseases, exercise, environment, the air we breathe, the food that we eat. Second, comfortable life. Here I talk about making your place of living comfortable and green, availability of transportation, and so on and so forth. The third aspect is economy. Every person, regardless of the development of technologies, wants to be needed and useful. That is why a great deal of our work is devoted to the development of digital economy. Here, now is the time which is it's a very complex, turbulent time because the world is changing very fast. The strategy reflects the priorities of sustainable development of the United Nations and Russia as a whole. So the strategy is not just a declaration. It has a plan of events, those who are responsible for the implementation, the ministries who will be the key ministries and focal points, the deadlines, and so on and so forth. So our Republic Tatarstan is very skilled in terms of planning and effective implementation. Now, SDG 16, we are talking about the people who are in charge, the commissioners for human rights, the rights of the child. There is a whole program which is called People's Control. It's a special site, internet resource, and anybody in Tatarstan can go access the site, and they can start a conversation, start a blog, or ask a question. There are 63 categories of questions. There are all kinds of on-site inspections that are held upon the request of the population. Then there is also a department on the website which is called Accessible Environment. And people leave their response regarding their experience, reviews of certain public facilities, including for people with limited abilities. 87% of the issues are resolved in favor of the population. It's very important to note that every year over 50,000 people get access to free legal aid. 200 organizations of various levels are involved in the implementation of the rights of women and gender equality. One of them is a women's organization which is called Charity. It brings together the ladies who become sponsors of children's theaters and create charity and hold charity events. The investment portal of Tatarstan is up and running in 11 languages of the world. Of course, we are represented in social media. Tatarstan is a strategically reliable partner. We're interested in long-term and mutually advantageous relations. We invite you to cooperate with us, and we're sure that it is only through close cooperation that we shall be able to achieve sustainable development goals. Let me complete my presentation by a confession I have to make. There is a sustainable development goal which we do not implement. This is SDG 14 about preserving the oceans. We do not have an ocean, but this is not true. You know what? We actually do have an ocean. The first ocean is the ocean of possibilities for our inhabitants, for our population, and for our partners in the global world. And the second ocean is an ocean of joy that you will experience if you come to visit Tatarstan. We will be very happy to see you in the hospitable land of Tatarstan, so we invite you to cooperation. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ms. Minulina. Now, any kind of comments, questions, and answers? So we have Ms. Altayeva, who is the permanent representative of Turkmenistan. So she also represents the diplomatic court. She's a doyen of the diplomatic court of the United Nations. Your Excellency, President Minikhanov, esteemed Vasily Alexeyevich, Alexei Nikolaevich, ladies and gentlemen, let me commend the Russian Federation on a very successful presentation of yet another region of the Russian Federation, the Republic of Tatarstan. We heard a lot of useful information today, very exciting, very interesting information. Our countries are brought together by long-term friendship. The President of Turkmenistan characterized our relationship. Tatarstan and Turkmenistan are united in terms of many years of cooperation, language commonality, cultural traditions, and a high level of trust and mutual understanding. It is well known that after the 16th century, Tatar merchants were often intermediaries between Russia and Western countries, and the first people who came to live in our country moved to our country because of trade and trade processes. Tatar communities exist in Ashgabat, and in the years of independence in 2009, a full-fledged mission of the Republic of Tatarstan was opened in Tajikistan. Also, Turkmenistan is very happy, very pleased with the results of cooperation with Kamaz factory. The lorries of this factory are used very widely in our economy. Also, the cooperation with Tatneft oil company, the training of specialists for all kinds of petroleum industry sectors is also held with the help of Tatarstan. Tatar-Turkmenistan interaction is also very important in the area of culture, science, education. In the Kazan Federal University, they have students, over 3,000 students from Turkmenistan. This university trains IT specialists, among other professions. The Days of Culture, like this April, we are going to have Days of Culture of the Republic of Tatarstan in Turkmenistan. It's a very athletic republic, and it is great that the president himself is a well-known athlete. Kazan Soccer Club, Rubin, was trained by a citizen of Turkmenistan, a master of sports and a merited coach of Kurgan Berdiev. He was the coach of the Tatar soccer team. Now he's also working on training young soccer players in Turkmenistan. In April 2019, President of Tatarstan came on a working visit to Turkmenistan and met with the Tatar community. Most famous and most active Tatars who reside in our country were invited to the meeting. Artists, a member of the union's artist, Kamil Viliahmedov, was also there. And President of Tatarstan thanked our country for creating good conditions for the life and development of Tatars residing in Turkmenistan. We all want to be patriots of our country regardless of where we live. We appreciate your contribution to maintaining the Tatar language and culture, increasing the cultural values together with the people of Turkmenistan. That's the quote from the president's speech. This year, we're planning to open the Consulate General of Turkmenistan in Kazan. Dear Mr. President, of course, the implementation of SDGs is a priority for all the countries members of the United Nations, and there is no doubt that your leadership and your role in the implementation of SDGs merits great respect, recognition, and the exchange of opinions will also be very useful for our country. So allow me once again to congratulate you, to wish your wonderful country peace, prosperity, and development. Thank you very much, Aksaltan Tarievna. Are there any other questions? Please introduce yourselves. Thank you very much for the organization of this wonderful meeting. I would like to once again to congratulate and to welcome Mr. President, President Nurgaliev. I would like to thank our sister for a wonderful presentation of economic development of the region. To me, as a Muslim and a son of the Tajik people, ever since I was a child, I always admired the example of Musa Jalil, who once said that there will be a tree of happiness growing on my ashes. And that's what I saw today. Tatarstan also has a great, big community of Tajiks. Sometimes we talk to a consul general, and I asked him, well, how is your life there? And he said, well, we feel at home. We are at home. We have graduates of the medical school. We have engineers. And this culture is an example for the entire world, this culture of tolerance, of intertwining religions and cultures as a whole. What we saw in the Kremlin of Kazan, the mosque, and the relationship and the attitude with regard to other religions. It is all a very interesting phenomenon, and to us and other nations, it should be an example. In terms of economic development of your region, I believe that today your development can be related to all the SDGs, and you mentioned the ocean of happiness for your nation, and that is so true. Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador Ahmadinov.
Дарья.
Any other questions and commentaries, please? Please introduce yourself if you can. Thank you, esteemed Ambassador of Russia in New York, Mr. Nebezia, Mr. Minikhanov, and Mr. Borisov. Thank you for today's presentation. You gave us very important information. We will send this information to our capital, and we'll try to work together in this field. My name is Amar Khan. I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. I'm Deputy Ambassador of Pakistan in New York. And I think I should probably speak in English. It's easier for me to speak in English.
You're very detailed.
Thank you for your Russian.
Yeah. I'm trying to learn Russian, and thank you for a very detailed presentation from all of you. And you have shared with us very concrete information and very valuable insight into what you are doing in this beautiful land of yours, which is called the Republic of Tatarstan. I was especially struck by the multicultural aspect and the emphasis on education, and the presentation that you just made on sports and the R&D and different other initiatives that you have just highlighted. I think your priorities resonate with what we are trying to do in Pakistan, as well as at the bilateral level. The relations between Pakistan and Russian Federation are expanding during recent years, and both on a bilateral basis as well as a member of SCO organization, which Pakistan has recently joined in 2017. I have myself worked at the SCO, and I'm seeing that there are a number of activities like heads of regions of SCO, and from that perspective, I've been able to see some of the presentations from other parts of Russia. And I think your emphasis on localizing SDGs as part of a regional cooperation is something which is really commendable, and which goes well with the priorities, with our priorities, not only at the United Nations but also at the level of other regional organizations. I would like to specifically mention this emphasis on connectivity and infrastructure, both within SCO, ECO, Economic Cooperation Organization, and our bilateral cooperation with Russian Federation. And in this regard, I would also like to mention China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, which is part of the Belt and Road Initiative, in which we have contributed a lot together with China, which is also your partner. And I think we can work and see how we can situate your priorities and our priorities both within the Belt and Road Initiative as well as China-Pakistan Economic Corridor. I see a lot of commonalities on our side and on your side, and I think in the future days we can work together how to advance them together at the United Nations. We're looking forward to your voluntary VNR on SDGs. I think this is something which is equally important for us as well. And as Pakistan is striving to become the ECOSOC president next year, we are ready to work with you and ready to see what are the areas on which we can work together. Thank you once again. Spasiba вам. До свидания.
Thank you. Any more comments? Пожалуйста, вам микрофон.
Thank you. You have the mic. I'm the head of the International Alliance of Sustainable Development. I'd like to welcome all the colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, and esteemed Rustam Nurgaliyev, esteemed Mr. Nebenzia, and others. Thank you so much for this detailed presentation in this format. And I have a question for the President Rustam Nurgaliyevich. As we know, the global community is behind on SDGs. And how do you assess the dynamics, at the example of Tatarstan, the role of the participation of the youth in achieving those goals? And what platforms are being used apart from world skills that were already described? And as the representative of youth and business and education, it's very interesting for us to hear about this moment. Thank you for your question. Well, you've noted a huge potential that we need to untap. Just last year, we made a decision to establish a Ministry of Youth because in various forms, this issue is present and is related to the sports. It was more about sports than about youth. No one worked with youth at that point. We have various youth platforms, summer camps, ecological platforms, the issues of training leaders among youth. And this is implemented at the Russian level. And they're among leading professionals in Russia. There are people from Tatar. And there are 20 leaders from Tatar. And the president. We choose young people and hire them to our government because we think that this youth potential is the most active force that will help us solve our future tasks. They are the future. Right now we're laying the foundation. Well, let's talk about synchronization or blockchain, artificial intelligence. Who can do that? Us? No, we can't do this. We don't understand the issue. Only young people can do it. And so are many other things that only young people can understand. And that's our pillar. Thank you, Mr. President. The permanent representative of Kyrgyzia now has the floor. Thank you, Mr. Nebenzia, President of the Republic of Tatarstan, dear colleagues. I'd like to thank Russia for organizing this very informative event dedicated to the Republic of Tatarstan. And I would like to especially thank Ms. Minulina, the youngest member of a Tatar government, for brilliant presentation. And of course, as we know, one of the key moments in implementing SDGs at the national level is the continuous work on the local level. And in this regard, the work that you described shows a bright example of such kind of work. And as we know, Tatarstan is one of the leading Russian regions. The basis of economy, as far as I know, is oil production, and we saw that Tatarstan leads also on agricultural produce. And recently, they pay a great deal of attention to innovations, to new technologies. Also, it's a very rich region in terms of history, and it's a member of IIS together with our country. And the EIS priorities match the SDGs in many ways. So one of the key moments, I think, is the cooperation between regions and countries, members of the organization. And I think that today's event will have a positive input and will help other countries to implement SDGs. Thank you. Thank you. And the permanent representative of Saudi Arabia asks the floor, Adala Al-Amoimi. The floor is yours.
Less than 2 decades ago, I was mayor of my hometown city of Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. And at that time, I received a delegation from Tatarstan and actually from the city of Kazan. And they extended an invitation to me to attend the 1000th anniversary of the establishment of Kazan. I believe that was almost right, the timing that you have indicated. Unfortunately, I could not make it, but it was ever since that time that I was attracted to the beautiful city of Kazan and the Republic of Tatarstan. His Excellency the President is a frequent visitor of Saudi Arabia. I believe I have met him in Saudi Arabia once or twice, and we are certainly proud of what our brothers in Tatarstan, brothers and sisters in Tatarstan have been able to achieve, and proud of the achievements and the status of Russian Muslims throughout the Russian Federation. They enjoy their religious freedom. They are positive and serious contributors to the development of their country, and we are proud to see that this has reflected itself positively in the development of several Muslim republics in the Russian Federation, Tatarstan amongst them at the top. I thank our dear colleague Talia for her excellent presentation, very impressive, very informative, and I thank you, Vasily, for organizing this event. It's a pleasure to be with you and with our friends here from Tatarstan and throughout the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambassador. Пожалуйста.
Господин Непежник, Mr. Nibenzia, Mr. President, I'm the Executive Director of the World Health Organization here in New York, and I would like to especially pay tribute to your successes and how glad we are to hear that you pay such a great deal of attention to healthcare in your republic. And of course, we're glad to hear this, because health is the basis of success in achieving all other SDGs as well. And we're a great deal that you pay to sports and healthcare. We're very glad to hear that the youth of your republic has an opportunity to lead a healthy way of life. And I'd also like to say that our cooperation with the Russian Federation in general and with this particular region in the field of healthcare is very active and efficient. I had the honor to work with your particular republic many years ago, from 1994. I've known several of your healthcare ministers. I visit Kazan, and we've cooperated with the Kazan University in various fields. So we have a long history of cooperation, and I'm glad to see your progress within the recent years and your contribution, your example for other regions of Russia is very valuable, and healthcare is important for each and every person. So the global declarations that we adopt here, and in which Russia plays an important role from a point of view of protecting human rights in order to have access to affordable healthcare. But it's impossible to achieve if unless every republic and every city moves towards this direction. So thank you for this good example, and we're ready to continue our cooperation in future. And I'd like to commend your successes in the republic and the country in general. Thank you for your kind words, and I'd like to give the floor to the permanent representative of Qatar, Aliye Al-Thani.
Mr. Moderator, and I would like to as well join my colleagues in thanking Ambassador Vaseli for giving us the opportunity today to witness such an excellent example, a very successful example of the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals. And through him, I would like to thank His Excellency, the President of the Republic, and the excellent presentations by Ms. Talia. I believe that in Qatar we invest a lot in the area of the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals, and it really gives me a lot of delight to hear such a successful story, and knowing that Tatarstan as well gives not only importance to the importance of education and development, but also to sports. And being a country, an area that hosted many, as has been mentioned, football tournaments, including, of course, the most recent FIFA World Cup that Russia has successfully hosted in 2018, and knowing that Qatar will follow in its footsteps, it gives me a lot of delight to see the progress they have achieved. We look forward to hearing more of this successful story, and we wish you all the best.
Thank you, Ambassador. Спасибо. Пожалуйста.
Меня зовут Нома Зарубин.
My name is Noma Zaruber. I represent NGO, the Sail of Hope. And as the representative of youth, I'd like to ask the following question. As a person coming from the city of Tomsk, and we're also a special economic zone, I would like to ask you if you cooperate with other regions of Russia, and what would you advise to attract investment, for example, to Siberia regions? And I would also like to say that in 2017, I visited Kazan, the Cup of Confederations, and I could see how professional you were in preparing for this event. And I thank you for this experience. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I'd like to say that Tomsk today is one of the most powerful educational centers in Russia. We are cooperating with the governor and because Tomsk is a leader in many fields. And speaking about working in innovation industry, as we've said, we have an association of innovative regions, and Tomsk, and the previous governor of Tomsk was the initiator, and he directed our work. Right now, someone else took charge, but we're still discussing those issues. And I think there's an agency of strategic initiative and remarkable structure that it sends messages as to which dimensions, which fields, for example, according to the World Bank, Russia was ranked 28th. And this association, it calls for systemic measures within the whole country to change the situation. We should work with businesses. And of course, in such regions as ours are very important in this work. There is a whole library of such pilot projects, and we contribute our examples. We take best practice from it. We have lots of agreements, and the more we communicate, the more we learn from each other. Well, for us, for example, in Singapore, each year we send our specialists there in various fields. Is the Silicon Valley and the recent trips to Korea. So the experience that other countries have, for example, China, we learn from this experience, and then representatives of various regions, they come to our region, and from Tomsk as well. And the governor of Tomsk is a good partner of ours. We need such active professionals, young women, who should help us move forward, push us towards being more active. It's not by chance that we are here. We work in Turkmenistan, we work in Tatarstan, in Uzbekistan, Saudi Arabia. We'll have a large event, and I would like to address this Saudi Arabia. Maybe that I suggested that holding an event in Saudi Arabia in April. We'll hold this event. When we address Qatar or other countries, we are able to reach full understanding, but it's important for us to be more proactive as well. I'd like to add a couple of words that, of course, our president says that we need people like me. But I was raised in Kazan, and there was so much invested in the system of education at the state level in order for I would be successful. And also, I'm an element of a large, effective system that has been established. So the systematic approach in working with professionals and building relations with other regions as well. Right now, Tatarstan is a powerful region within the country. We are a donor region. We're not subsidized as many others in our country. But we need to say that each region of Russia is unique in its own way. And each region of Russia has something to offer to us. We can learn from them. So we have inter-regional agreements in place with other subjects of the Russian Federation. There's such a practice. And when we sign such an agreement within our country, within the regions of our country, then we prepare a plan of events in order to implement this agreement. And this plan helps us solidify our actions and name those who are responsible, set the timelines and deadlines, and the goals that we should do in the field, we should achieve in the field of tourism, education, healthcare, economy. And then when the heads of our regions meet, the governors, the president of Tatarstan, they can control based on all this information how what's our goal, status goal is. And speaking about attracting means to the region, I think there are various investment agencies that exist in every region of the country. And we represent an organization that is called the Organization of Investment Development, and I'm the member of the board of directors, and we try to support each other.
Tatarstan has a special economic zone called Alabuga. It's been rated by different agencies. It has all kinds of industrial companies, and about 30 companies. Now, this zone will also manage other special economic zones, the 3 sites in other Russian regions. So we're trying to scale our experience in other parts of the Russian Federation. Thank you. Thank you very much for your contribution. Well, Mike, we have to thank dear President Rustam Nurgalinovich Minikhanov, because the region is indeed a successful one. We in the United Nations Association of Russia are great friends with the Republic of Tatarstan. Prior to that, we had a presentation in Geneva, Switzerland, in the European capital of the United Nations, and also there was a lot of interest on the part of the attendees. The experience that has been accumulated by the Republic of Tatarstan is not only just an example for the Russian Federation, but also for many countries of the globe. Special thanks to Ms. Talia. She was very professional in handling very tough questions. Maybe not today, but in Switzerland there were very tough, very sort of provocative questions. And the level of leadership of young government in Tatarstan says that speaks to the fact that the Republic has a great future. The permanent representative himself, I would also love to thank you, Mr. Nebienzia, for many years of support of the region. So together with you and the leaders of our regions, we will be able to expand the experience of successful regions, not only in Russia, but also throughout the world. This is not really my concluding remarks. I would just like to thank Rustam Nurgalievich and his entire delegation of the Republic of Tatarstan for being with us today, for sharing your experience and achievements for the implementation of SDGs. I would like to thank my friend Alexei, who is always supporting the Russian regions. You always know that seeing is believing, no matter what you have heard today, you will still have no idea how much you miss. Well, the president of Tatarstan may be sort of prejudiced in a good sense, but I am not biased. But I do advise you to go to Tatarstan and Kazan. You will have no regrets. Thank you very much. I would like to give the floor once again to our guest, the guest whom we awaited for a long time. Well, I never thought I would find myself in this building. I'd seen it on TV. Well, the Ministry of Finance is something that we do go to, but there is, of course, no question we must be here as well, because the SDGs, without this kind of progress, we will have no future. So we follow the trend, as you said, and I would like to thank you. We are a region that some people know, some people don't. Thank you very much to our ambassador and his team, and to our colleagues. Huge thanks to you, my audience. You listened with great attention. You appreciated our progress and achievements. We will continue to work very hard, and we look forward to seeing you in Tatarstan. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.